Like, feel free to watch, but if you're actually interested in watching the show, I will preface with I'm spoiling parts of it, parts that I don't deem necessarily that bad in terms of spoilers, but it's because it's kind of a rant. But we'll get into that. You'll know when to jump ship if you're wanting to actually watch the show. So let me know when you're ready. I'll start ranting. I won't try to keep you guys here that long.
All right. You should be good to go.
Wait, were we ranting about cartoon with the bean mouth?
A bean mouth? Yeah.
It's a bean mouth cartoon.
It's a bean mouth cartoon.
Cowl art cartoon. All right. So I've got a pretty decent script that I can probably stick to, so it shouldn't be too long. I've got like 60 something slides for my presentation, but feel free to interject whenever you've got comments, questions, or concerns. But today we'll be talking about an animated series that I've completed within the last year called Hilda. That on its own is a really phenomenal young adolescent cartoon with loads of creativity and polish. But with its most recent and final Netflix season, it presents a glaringly bizarre real-life parallel that strangely bleeds into the latter part of the series. That genuinely, I don't think if I was not doing a presentation today about it, I don't think anybody else on the planet would ever bring this up. So I'm very excited. So to begin, I assume many of you have either not seen or not heard of the cartoon Hilda, so allow me to briefly explain the fundamental structure of the show. Hilda is about a fearless blue-haired 11-year-old girl and her deer fox companion Twig, setting out on adventures in their pre-digital, modern Scandinavian folklore-inspired fantasy world that she inhabits. I'm losing my place in my script. Hilda lives out in the mountain woods in a small home with her mother, Joanna, but after plot-related stuff ensues, she is forced to move to the large city of Trollberg. In the plot, from there, Hilda adjusts to urban life while making new friends and setting out on brand new adventures within her world. Essentially just the basic premise. Now that I've explained that, I'll touch on aspects of the series that I love about the show without delving into too many heavy spoilers. Hilda is a series deeply rooted in exploring the relationship between humans and the natural world. The series takes its elevated fantasy setting to great lengths to show how nature and humanity are forever within a shifting balance of coexistence and head-on conflict. The earliest episodes of Hilda were quick to explore thought-provoking and nuanced themes, such as nature's indifference from those that inhabit their world to the struggles of single parenthood. What got myself invested in the show pretty early on, beyond it just being like one of the shows that I really enjoy, which are just feel-good slice of life cartoon series, and specifically this one being fantasy, was how it so readily implemented thought-provoking themes within the core of its premise and explored them in each episode, which, again, I went into the series blind, wasn't expecting it to be anything super crazy, but surprisingly hit a lot harder than I expected it to be, both in like quality and story and all of that stuff. So for a majority of you listening today that have seen a good majority of Adventure Time, Hilda feels really similar to how that show feels in its later seasons once it starts to kind of get its stride and sort of age up with its audience. So, except with comparisons to Adventure Time explores more of the existential themes on a variety of topics, plus plot-related stuff with that show. And Hilda goes more into the relationship of the natural world, nature, and humans evolving alongside, other sentient beings that occupy their world. Super interesting stuff. Again, don't want to get too into spoiler territory. That's also not to mention the show employs one of my favorite storytelling devices in media of using licensed music throughout the show, specifically alternative indie music that pairs wonderfully alongside its a fantastic original soundtrack. So enough gushing about the show. Needless to say, Hilda's become one of my favorite animated shows I've seen in the past couple of years, so much so that I'm even trying to write my own young adult adventure series purely based on elements from the show, just inspiration, not fanfic, right? And then, of course, many other shows and cartoons I've seen over the years. If anybody's interested in watching, which I guess includes your brother Skipty, I'd highly recommend the first 2 seasons, the accompanying Mountain King movie, for a complete and satisfying story experience if you're just looking to binge the series quickly after everything I've said. So this is the thing I mentioned before, spoiler warning. So this is the part where I get into pretty heavy spoilers with the show. So if you're interested in watching, definitely click away now because I'm going to be talking about the final season pretty intensely. Or later. Or I mean, I respect it. I get it.
No,
it is a good show. It slaps.
Hey, look at that. I've got somebody in the audience actually seen it.
Do they win though?
What do you mean, do they win?
Do they win? Does Hilda win?
Yes, she wins all over. It's great.
You've done it, Hilda. You've won. You truly are the most Hilda.
I actually would like to watch the show, but I don't think it's in my region, unfortunately. But
yeah. Well, that brings us to our sponsor. Something with a
There is
VPN.
no sponsor. No one will sponsor this.
Get a VPN, put yourself in America, and then you'll have
Could
it.
you imagine? All right, put yourself in my shoes very briefly, just for 2 seconds. Try to pitch a YouTube channel that in one breath covers, satanic panic and the Cold War era military technology, and in another breath, a children's cartoon show and a lawsuit about Elden Ring in the context of spirituality.
Well, see, here's the thing. When I'm preparing these presentations, I
In
know
the
y'all are going to
context,
go
it's
into
reality.
y'all are going to go into history presentations and talk about war and your favorite subjects. And I'm always trying to hit the angle of arts and humanities and entertainment. But it took me days to come up with the topic because this almost became the Attack on Titan rant. But I might save that for another day. And I haven't seen the show in a hot
That would have
minute.
been really fun.
I'm ready.
that
for
would
that.
be Cullen.
It'd require more research.
It'd
Cullen,
require
that would be
a
a-
full 6 hours just to discussion.
Well,
And then
and I want
this-
to give the fandom time to actually watch the whole series because technically the final movie edit combining both movies hasn't come out yet, or it's very soon to come out, or already has.
I
So-
mean,
And
me-
then
me-
I'm just
sorry, go on.
and then I'm just like, hey, there's one time somebody just ruined a person's wedding,
I'm so thankful.
and I had to
Yeah.
pick up
For
the
that
pieces.
story.
Well, that's funny though.
I was
What were you
gonna say, when we were in the US together, I think we both discussed our opinions on Attack on Titan, which are very similarly shared.
I had recently finished the show too. So.
Yeah, and so I feel like that would be a tag team episode, 100%.
I could totally do it. There's
Yeah.
just details. I'm already talking about another presentation. TLDR, Attack on Titan's also great. I'd highly recommend it. That show's either a 9 or a 10 out of 10 for the first 3 seasons, and then the 4th season's very it's an 8 out of 10, and I've got reasons for that.
I felt
And
the
I'd have
exact
to
opposite. I thought that the first 2 seasons were 7 out of 10, 7 or 8 because they were just kind of generic fantasy, and then as soon as answers start coming, that's when it gets good.
I'm
I'm vetoing this discussion after Preston does this piece because we're getting off topic. This is why I'll do its own presentation in the future. maybe.
I'm recently rewatching it with my parents actually, and rewatching it season 4 for me is actually the best season, and I know people get mad. Season 3 is for me the best season, but season 4 is now becoming my favorite season.
It's so good.
But yeah, the last couple of when they got into that whole act 3 and then final finale, that's where I lose it.
No.
I'm
Final
vetoing it,
frame.
motherfuckers. I'm talking about a different show today because that's just going to become anime rants because
Listen,
all of
we
you
were
have
just giving
seen
people-
those shows.
We were just giving
This
people
show-
time to get away from the spoilers. All right, we were just giving this.
Oh yeah, right.
friendly.
People can't click out of a browser in 2 seconds, and not that many people watch Hilda, but every person on the planet who's an anime fan has seen or at least heard of Attack on Titan. So, anyways, getting off track. I lost my point in my script. So, blah 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 blah. Something spoilers. Yeah, if you haven't clicked away now, get fucked. All right. That being said,
Damn.
which is funny, I had a middle finger already presented, and that wasn't even part of my script. So the first part of the rant, we'll call it, for the rest of this presentation is I'd like to give a big middle finger to corporate America and the entertainment industry, specifically. Why, you may ask? Well, that is because they completely constantly engage in capitalistic practices that stifle creativity, and they are actively ruining the medium of storytelling and animation specifically, all for the sake of industry profits. And I don't have any slides to really go into that, but I mean, you could look up any sort of article or news related to how certain streaming platforms have taken off certain shows, like Infinity Train has been shadow banned, for tax purposes and other stuff like that, where, CEOs need new yachts, right? While they're, canceling shows and putting people out of work. It's something I'd say I'm passionate about. I don't work in the industry one-to-one to say oh yeah, I know Jim Bob from down the street and he lost his job because of HBO Max or whatever, but it's really sad, just to see
Infinity Train
kind of stuff.
Infinity Train, I remember following the production of that and getting that pilot out in the first, seeing that just show up to nothing was quite a big disaster, and just the general animation industry.
Literally the only way you can watch Infinity Train nowadays is by pirating it, which is insane unless you buy the DVDs online for the first 2 seasons. It's absolutely mental.
McKenna, welcome to the student tier. Thank you so much for joining us today and adding yourself to our growing list of members. You will now be in the Hilda presentation final edit of.
Skipty, do me a favor.
What's up?
For this portion, when he goes on the rant, just put a bunch of the Adam Conover ads that you see all the time talking about the animation industry over it.
Do it.
Thank you.
Will do.
All right. With this in mind, that brings me to my next focal point of discussion, which you can see coming from 1,000 miles away. That being Hilda season 3, the final series or the final season of the entire series. And to put it plainly, my own humble opinion, it's not as good as the first 2 seasons and the movie that came before it. And I mostly blame Netflix for that, which I'll get into in a moment. But I mean, based on the rant I went on a couple minutes ago, you can probably guess where we're going with this. So you see, the first 2 seasons of Hilda were both greenlit with 13 episodes each. But the third and final season was only given 8 episodes, with the production team working on Hilda confirming online that Netflix intentionally cut 6 additional episodes that were slated for the season. So, needless to say, Netflix's decision to renew Big Mouth for another season came at the expense of allowing Hilda to finish its story the way the creative staff had intended. And because of this, in my opinion, the third and final season feels very underbaked in comparison to the previous 2 and the movie combined. So, to get into a little bit of specifics, minor spoilers, again, turn away if you're not interested in hearing spoilers. Certain plot lines and side characters were left entirely out of the final season, such as the witch Kaisa and her entire subplot of Hilda's friend Frida training to become a witch herself. It was a heavy part of the second season, and it was just completely dropped entirely in the third season. Like, the character's not even present, doesn't even have any voice acting. Like, the character in the middle, not the character to the far right. So it's just completely dropped for whatever reason, right? Obviously, Netflix cutting into episodes, production team needing to focus on other stuff. Who knows, right? But it's interesting, and oddly enough, despite the episode cuts that were confirmed online by the production crew, they still had time moving forward with episodic filler episodes that had nothing to do with the overarching plot or plot line of the final season. Because, like, besides, I think 2 or 3 filler episodes and a couple of, like, moments here and there, the third season is pretty much just this overarching, like, arc that I won't spoil if people are interested in watching it. But it's weird because knowing that they had episodes canceled, they still ran forward with, like, doing filler episodes more or less. Like, filler episodes that were, like, not that good to begin with, in my opinion, but just still seemed really, really out of place. So, needless to say, for the third season, my disappointment was immeasurable and my day was ruined. But all of those minor, and I do mean minor, complaints pale in comparison to my personal biggest gripe of the season. The final season chose to do a lot of reveals that felt unnecessary for the characters in the story, but I won't be discussing anything regarding the finale or other elements of the season that, again, get into spoilers that aren't relevant to my topic. But there is one reveal in particular that comes to mind with this final season, and the tie-in novel book series with pretty much the same plot. So, what could be so bad that it would get me upset enough to make an entire presentation to then rant about it on the internet for? And I'll give time to make if anybody has any guesses. If not, I'll just continue.
I mean, all right. I'm coming at this with no
knowledge of the show at all.
Yeah, no knowledge of the show whatsoever. I'm gonna guess that it is a character death.
All right, not a bad guess.
Did you lie to me? Did Hilda not win?
I've seen the show, but it's been like a year. I'm trying to think of what
season 3 aired 9 months ago.
Is.
When I was researching, because like I needed to know certain times of events. Like, it's crazy. It's been 9 months since the season finale aired.
She's expecting any day.
Wait. So, I might not have seen season 3 then, because I don't think I was watching it. I don't think I was watching it 9 months ago.
Honestly, you might want to deafen me because.
Oh no! Yeah, no. I might hop out. Oh, no.
I'm serious. Last warning, because I'm about to spoil a huge part of the final season. It's crazy though. I didn't expect anybody in like our news team to actually have seen the show. So
I can't believe Hilda didn't win. God damn.
Seconds before starting the live stream today, my brother messaged me of the fox deer character because his 2 favorite animals are foxes and deers. And he told me he even has a mecha RP going right now where mecha is deer themed, which I had never thought of before. But yeah, and so he was like, I have to watch this show, Hilda. And I said, I'll look to it after the stream is done. Lo and behold, it found me anyway.
The highest rated episode in the entire series, which is basically its own short film, within the show is in the second season, whereas it is an entire episode centered around the deer fox. Like it won multiple like animation awards, you know, like whatever the Golden Globe equivalent is. So yeah, they'll be really interested to see that episode. It's phenomenal. So, but anyways, any more guesses before I go? I don't want to hold up everybody till 4 a.m.
Nah, go ahead.
All right. So I lost my place in my script again. Well, drum roll, please. It would be the reveal that Hilda has a deadbeat father who has spent the entirety of the series prior to season 3 not present in her life at all. Bet you wouldn't have guessed that, right? And again, I know everybody present, at least in the audience I can hear right now, hasn't seen the show. But if you had watched any parts of the series before, the entire series was about Hilda and her mother. Right? Like the two of them as a duo. Like there was never even a discussion. There was never even like any foreshadowing or theorem surrounding like, oh, who's Hilda's father? Like I'm pretty sure, and I don't have a slide for this, but you can fact check me if you look it up online. Like even the creator, when somebody asks like, oh, who's Hilda's father? Like in like a panel or something, it was like, oh, well, she doesn't need to have that father figure. Like she's a character on her own or something. I'm paraphrasing here and it's kind of building to my narrative, but like, needless to say, this thing came out of nowhere, right? Like this character came out of nowhere is the point I'm trying to build.
This reminds me of Elmo.
Yeah, how so?
So, look, I stopped watching Sesame Street when I was 23 because that's around the right time you should stop watching Sesame Street.
Fair.
But like recently, they added Elmo's dad into the show.
Oh yeah.
And it's
what?
It probably feels really similar.
Yeah, and it just doesn't act like it's for obviously a particular purpose. But just watching like Sesame Street now, it's just not the same with Elmo's dad in the picture. And so I had to stop watching.
You were trying to get with Elmo's mom. Is that what was happening?
There's the second short.
You just needed Elmo.
The time when Elmo was an orphan, best years of my life.
Yeah, I really resonated with the character.
Yeah, Elmo's dad comes out of nowhere. He's like, hey, what's up?
I've never even watched Sesame Street, not as a kid, not as an adult, nothing, right? And I can totally understand where you're coming from because they just shoehorn a character in after you've like come to love these characters for decades. It just feels like why weren't they planned in the first place?
No, my biggest thing was like, where were you for the last 20 years of Elmo's life?
Exactly.
Like, where were you? Yeah, I love you, Elmo. He's like, I love you, Elmo, and it's like, no, you don't, because where were you?
Yeah, and that is exactly. I'm so glad you made that comparison because again, without having like any of you guys watch season 3, that's exactly how it feels for this. Where like Hilda's like 12 or 13 at the time, and all the characters like she acts like he's been in her life forever, and it feels super forced. But then every other character. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but let me just read off my script and I'll continue. So this slide basically. Essentially, from the wording and the visual I've picked, I'd like to say that I really wouldn't have minded, honestly, that reveal happened. My issue is not with the reveal itself, because I think any sort of idea can be done well if it's written well. The problem was, I don't think it was planned out, and it really wasn't meaningful for the end of the series, or Hilda's development as a character, or her family bonds as like, a story device, anything really. But I mean, I'd go as far to say that this could have been like one of the best reveals in the series if it was handled with nuance and care. But that's the neat thing. It wasn't. The reveal was handled poorly and compounded to the already existing problems of season 3, with the budget cuts being forced by Netflix and tons of other wacky, zany, questionable writing decisions. And I would go as far as to say that Hilda's father, Anders is his name, is literally the Scrappy-Doo of Hilda. Like, I genuinely stand by that from just how fucking out of place the character feels. Right?
Wait, so he saved the series?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Hilda was a shit show before Anders showed up, but like once he showed up, I'm like, best show. It was fantastic. So I'd just like to get into more specific details surrounding the season without getting into too many spoilers, but you can watch it for yourself to confirm what I'm saying. But like, Anders literally spends the entirety of the season getting chewed out by Hilda's family members while simultaneously trying to bond with his daughter after years of being gone. This show's not that like popular, like a show like Adventure Time or like Regular Show or Steven Universe. So, like, it was really hard for me to find images, but it's crazy when you look up Hilda's father. Like, some of the first images that come up is literally like her aunt scolding him for being a deadbeat father, his ex-wife like fucking yelling at him, right, and saying you're not living with us, like go fuck yourself, and pretty much every other image you're going to see of like the father just being like a nonchalant character and whatnot. But he spends the entirety of the season getting chewed out. His first episode introduction, where he's introduced as the father that was never there, also ties into this plot line. Let me just read off the script because I wrote it a little better than I'm ad-libbing it here. But from the time he is first introduced to the last night of the show, Anders spends his time bringing Hilda to a castle robbery where he neglects taking care of her as the father he could have been, only to get kidnapped by the plot until the finale, which again I don't have images for. I'm still in heavy spoiler territory, so I'm warning you, Jesse. Like, they be warned. But like, I don't.
That's gonna be so fun to edit. Just Jessie poking her head in the door and then leave.
Somebody's got to like at her in chat because I'm literally. It's the rest of the presentation.
I will.
It is the rest of this presentation is ranting about this character. So yeah, literally. I mean, I don't have images to show it because again, like it's really hard to find screenshots of a show that is not that popular, and every screenshot I got was on Twitter. But like literally in this episode, because I don't have notes on this or a separate slide, but I want to go on this tangent because I added it last minute. Literally, he goes to this castle robbery, and the whole point is to show that like him as a character and being a deadbeat father, he just loves adventure, and he's like Hilda because she loves adventuring too. He gets kidnapped, right? I won't spoil it for plot reasons. He gets kidnapped, and literally her mom has a sit down with her in like a pickup truck and is like, yeah, your father just comes and goes on occasion. And the episode ends with them actually on the moral of, yeah, your father's just a deadbeat. Like, yeah, it's not surprising he left without saying anything, even though he got kidnapped, and it's just a misunderstanding because he gets kidnapped like off screen and she doesn't see what happens, right? So it's like she ends the episode and the moral is, well, sometimes dads leave and sometimes they go shopping for milk. And it's just absolutely mental, right? Because it's like you'd think it'd be building to something, but like there's only 3 episodes left in the season at that point, and like the episode ends on, yeah, your dad went for milk again, sorry kid. And like it's mom and daughter bonding again, which has been the entirety of the series up to that point.
Wait a minute, when Hunter x Hunter does it we love it, but and Hilda does it we hate it.
I haven't finished my presentation yet. This isn't just a random cartoon. I'm building to something. Just you wait.
Okay.
I'm not fucking crazy. He switched those numbers.
Let him cook. Let him cook.
You say that though, but like no, like this is like somewhat correlated to Game of Thrones, like summarizing certain plot points in like a couple of episodes before the show ends.
Literally, I hate getting attached to shows that I watch as they air, and every time I do that, there's like a 70% chance that they end, like their last couple seasons or last season just shits the bed, and that was absolutely kind of the case with Hilda. But I blame Netflix for it.
There is
honestly.
one single show that has nailed the landing of a long run sitcom that I loved, and it was the final season 8 of Scrubs, because season 9 doesn't exist and season 10 isn't real, and I'm gonna close my ears and scream if anyone tells me season 10 is going to happen.
That's some hard cope, but I agree.
Season 8 was wonderful. It knew the series was ending. They concluded literally everyone's character arc, including the side characters. They had a whole season to do it. And the final shot of the show is just gorgeous and perfect, and they never renewed it for a season 9, and they're not doing it, and I don't care what anyone says.
Hey, that's Code Geass for me.
Okay, I don't watch any of the spin-off series for Code Geass. Like literally, I don't know why they keep making those shows, because they've just been awful.
Yeah, just watch season 1, season 2.
Yeah,
done.
Literally,
you're good.
And the show's over. So, anyways, back to the presentation. I'd like to again build on the point I was talking about earlier, where the entirety of the series, like throughout the series, Hilda and her mother have gotten development, like as a mother-daughter bond. Like literally the entirety of the second season's finale, like second to last episode, the episode finale, and then the movie, which literally picks up after a cliffhanger in season 2, is about their mother-daughter bond. The show begins with her being in a single-parent household with her mother and having a really close bond, right? It's not one of those things that's explained. It's not like in the first episode they're like, oh honey, you know, I'm a single mom and I'm able to raise you and I'm a powerful woman. It's just like it's unspoken, right? Like that's just their family dynamic, right? And it is like that for the rest of the series, and it's subtle, it works, and whatever. And the show takes plenty of time to explore their bond as that, right? And it is again even after her father character is introduced, the case for the series finale, which you would think, oh, they're introducing this deadbeat father character. Obviously, it's going to be this like bigger plot of them reuniting as a family. So like it would be, instead of a mom and daughter adventure in the finale, it'd be like a dad and daughter adventure, right? Because I talked about how he gets kidnapped by the plot till pretty much the end of the finale, right? Well, again, I don't have screenshots to show it, but if you watch the show, you'll know what I mean. He literally gets kidnapped to like a magical world and becomes a side character because Hilda finds him, is like, oh, hey, Dad, what's up? And he stays behind to be like, oh, go find your mom and go on the finale adventure. Like, he's not even present in the finale. He's literally not even there. Like, they introduce this character and then make him a side character in what could have easily been like the tie-up like family plot to end the series. It's just absolutely mental.
I like the idea of like the dad finally shows up after like not being part of the family for years, and it's Hilda's like, "Hey, Dad, what's up?" Like, just
that is exactly what happens.
That's how
if you watch the entire show.
That's literally how they handle the reintroduction. All right, spoiler for the one of my favorite anime of all time. Tyler, you know what's coming. Full Metal Alchemist 2003. That's literally how they handle. Nazis. That's how they handle Hohenheim's reintroduction to the series. Is Alphonse is like, oh, Dad's back. I want to do so much catching up and talk to him. And Edward's like, I haven't cared about you in years. I don't care about you now that you're. It's perfect.
Yeah. I feel like Vernier going off on like Joshua Wiseman genuinely. Like, I'm getting worked up about this, but it's funny. I'm not like actually mad because trust me, you'll understand where I'm coming from when I get to the point. But the opportunity to have Hilda grow closer to her father as he re-enters her life could have been a fantastic way to end the series, again, if written correctly. But instead, it leaves us on this weird sour note of Hilda's father getting no character arc within the 4 episodes he's given of screen time in the last 4 episodes of the series. And the ending scene literally depicts him hoping he can grow closer to his daughter in some way, shape, or form. Like, it is an open-ended book note to end the series. And as far as I know, Netflix isn't renewing new seasons. Head creator Luke Pearson hasn't made any like more tie-in novels that continue the story, or the graphic novels that this was originally based on, which greenlit the show. Like, nothing at all. Like literally, I'm not kidding when I say the final scene in the series depicts Hilda's father sitting alone in his apartment room on the day of a parade, looking at a locket of his daughter, and later wandering the parade by himself and not actually spending time with her or any of the other characters in the series that have been established. Like, she's literally not spending time with him at all. And again, I'd like to say it was just an absolutely bizarre, wacko choice to end the series like that, to the point where like my girlfriend and I were just scratching our heads after binging the final season, because we watched it in a day, because we had watched the series like seasons 1 and 2 in the movie and knew that like the final season was coming out like a month later. So it was like the perfect timing. We're doing the same thing with What We Do in the Shadows, because that season 6 trailer just dropped yesterday, and we just started season 1 for Halloween. Like, we're going to marathon the whole thing for the month of October. So we're kind of doing that again, except with like that show, right? But it left us scratching our heads. We didn't understand why the father character was introduced. He kind of came out of nowhere. It felt shoehorned in, and you would think it would build to something, but it just didn't. It felt like this weird, awkward insert of a character, right? So, but I'd like to say again, season 3 overall, despite its strengths, left me feeling underwhelmed in comparison to the seasons prior. So much so that it formed my unbreakable opinion that the Mountain King film is the definitive end to the series, as it wraps up the overarching nature-focused Trolls plotline in a way that feels like a fitting end to the series. Like, literally, I'm telling you, this movie and the 2 seasons prior, if it was just that as its own thing, absolutely phenomenal. Like, sleeper hit of a cartoon, genuinely. So I'd like to keep saying that as I preface and continue to go on this rant. But yeah, those are phenomenal. Nothing of my rant has anything to do with these prior seasons. They have their flaws, but it's easily overlookable compared to like just the quality it brings for like a young adolescent series. But days after I finished Hilda, I pretty much left the series alone for a short little while and continued on with my life. Like, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, I wish the season could have been better and whatnot.
Jesse's
I'm
back.
still going, but it's less spoilery now, but you might get spoiled still. So be warned.
I'm sorry. I led you
I'm
astray.
so sorry. Literally, the whole presentation is a Hilda spoiler. So, sorry, mate.
Let's see. Were you the last one?
Yes, this will be the last presentation.
Yeah.
I may just hop off for the night then.
Okay.
I don't want to get it spoiled.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Jesse. I super appreciate you making your debut on Swag Academy.
Yeah, I did appreciate the slot or the short story. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be pretty quick. I don't know. I might have talked a little too fast through it, but
it's all right.
It was fun.
No, good. It'll be a fantastic short on the channel.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely shave it down to a minute. Hey, right, I'll see y'all later.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
All right.
Manuel, yes, what Cullen is saying is you should only watch season 2 and the movie. That is
like I'm one of those people that like you should watch the entirety of the series on your own to form your own opinion. But as a fan, right? Like if I'm recommending the show, I would say you can just not watch season 3 and be satisfied.
It's like Evangelion. You know, the last 2 episodes don't exist until you're mentally prepared to watch them. But you can enjoy the series just fine with that.
That's like as being a representative on a bigger platform for a pretty small fandom. I'm not saying this is everybody's opinion. I know a lot of people felt pretty mixed about season 3. Like it still has its positive qualities. It's just when you compare it to how complete the first 2 seasons of the movie feel, it's like I'd say just like, you know, watch it at your own discretion.
This show just seems like Attack on Titan.
No, not even the same league. Attack on Titan's final season was still phenomenal. It just
okay.
No, I'm getting baited. I'm gonna have to go on that rant. I'm not doing it in the Hilda presentation. I'm not.
Because yes, you're right. The final season phenomenal, but the last 2 episodes were fucking disgraceful.
What?
I'll make a slide about it. And we'll have like a tanks.
Skipty, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You're wrong.
We're gonna have to do this as another trial because I will go to bat to defend 100% of AOT was solid gold all the way through.
You know, so ironic. I'm bitching about it, but I'm still saying like Attack on Titan is probably one of the best anime shows of the last decade.
Yeah, like, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Like absolutely. It's just we all disagree on like how the score should have been handled.
Right over there.
Actually, no. Yeah, no, but we like this has been going on for a long time because Skipty thinks that Cyberpunk 2077 is an RPG. It's not.
No, it's not.
Wrong.
No, I've never said that. Cyberpunk 2077.
Fight.
It's a heist game. It's not an RPG. It's a heist game. It's a pretty linear story.
You literally messaged me after I made that comment. You went, "It's absolutely a RPG."
I'm gonna find this right now. I'm gonna find the receipts.
I'm gonna
continue, Cullen. Go ahead.
Continue, Cullen.
Again, I keep losing my place because like we get in these little tangents, but it's funny. I'm gonna have to make the Attack on Titan one. Ugh.
No, we'll do it as a trial. It needs a whole day. It needs a
and I'll be a lawyer.
Okay, so I finished wrapping up Hilda. Girlfriend and I kind of just walked away from the series. You're like, the finale could have been better, season could have been better, but we still liked the show overall, right? That is until one day I was scrolling through the magical lands of a place called Reddit and saw a post by a fan revealing information I was not made aware of. Information that still to this day carries a heavy impression on the show for those in the fandom that know the certain context surrounding it and the people that learned of this information during the show's airing or pretty much conclusion, right? Because it was very much a couple days after. So I'll give some time for people to process and read the message on the screen that I'm about to display. But TLDR, after everybody's done reading this, Luke Pearson, the creator of Hilda, had cheated on his wife and left his kids shortly after the series concluded, all of which was revealed on his wife's Instagram page to the general public as seen here, literally days or maybe a week, I don't remember the exact time, after the show aired. And I censored her name. I don't think it's relevant to go super digging. Like if you're curious and interested, again, just discretion. I'm not trying to platform this as like a, something that needs to be like scrutinized or looked under a lens, but it is worth noting that this is still a public post on her account. So I can only assume that information is being intentionally left out to the public. And for my presentation topic today, with the utmost respect towards the family and cast and crew involved in the series, it's worth discussing because I genuinely think that this event played into the production of season 3 of Hilda. So I know there's a lot to unpack there, and I can go back to the slide if anybody else needs to read the message. But I would like to say and state for the record that I have no intention of seeking answers to my questions. I'd rather merely present the information as provided to me by more passionate fans in the fandom to discuss, as the events present facing within the show are a little too on the nose for me to turn a blind eye to. So, as this Reddit user points out, a Scribble in Time, their username. One point of discussion was that Luke Pearson, notoriously, right, would, after his seasons wrapped up or his graphic novels were finished, would go on to make like thank you posts online acknowledging his children, his wife, and his home life. Pretty much up until the end of season 2. Like it's nothing but conjecture, and if that's even the right word, or just kind of looking under a lens here. But there was sort of this natural shift away from thanking and acknowledging his home life and being more like, oh, thank you to everybody, you know, that helped and did stuff. And in kind of retreading Instagram pages, Twitter, and other avenues, that's absolutely the case with the 3rd season. Like there's this big, long thank you message towards, you know, the production crew, the fans, the everything. But again, no acknowledgement anywhere of his wife and kids, right? And I know it's a lot to kind of delve into for that, but it's just interesting that that's kind of how it came about, right? It almost pretty much intentionally confirms, you know, the events that his wife was talking about online, right? But assuming the timing and this information to be completely factual, alongside, you know, things that we'll never know behind the scenes, one could speculate that Luke's creative decisions towards the show may have been absolutely influenced by his infidelity at the time. And, you know, couple that with Netflix's terrible decisions for, you know, canceling or shortcutting shows and whatnot, and you've got a recipe for disaster, right? So with this in mind, it is my personal headcanon that Luke Pearson, in a weird stunt of guilt and self-righteousness, inserted himself into the show as either a coping mechanism for his infidelity, or was attempting to deliver a perverted apology towards his wife and kids through his own artwork after leaving them high and dry. Again, a lot to unpack there, but it's interesting that this father character seemingly had no intention of being written into the show before, no acknowledgments, nothing beyond the fandom just doing what fandoms do, where they're like headcanoning this, saying, oh, where's Hilda's father? What's this? And nothing in the show revealing it, no hints, no nothing, right? And then suddenly, at the time, supposedly based on paper trails online, of this man's infidelity, which I don't know the full details of, I'm not about to look into that. Suddenly this father figure character comes in to the show. It's really on the nose, right? Like it's just absolutely wild, right?
Sorry, go on.
No. I
was going to say, I think he's opening up to discussion here.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I was going to say, this reminds me of, do you remember the Powerpuff?
Yes,
remake?
2016 Powerpuff.
No,
Girls.
don't bring that up. Don't bring that up.
Don't have a slide talking about it because I've never watched that Powerpuff Girls show, but it's exactly similar to this in my opinion.
Yeah, when one of the writers, for the audience who doesn't know, one of the writers put themselves into the story.
I remember that.
It's a foul story.
Yeah,
I'd argue that one's a bit more perverted and fucked up. This one's just weirdly captivating.
Yeah,
as a fan of the show and a fan of his work.
Well, there's
it's sorry. I was gonna say it's more about the whole like implementing yourself into the story rather than like telling an actual story you want to.
Yeah,
tell.
there's like I have always and Tyler knows this actually because it happens in so many manga, especially. I despise self-insert characters because the function of your artwork, if you're an artist, the function of your artwork is to express yourself. Your characters, if you have the heaviest hand in their decision making, are you already. So the only reason to put yourself literally into whatever show you're making, and I'll use Rick and Morty as the prime example of this because I remember Justin Roiland talked many times about, using the show as a way to grapple with things that he was dealing with. And let's just go straight to the root of all memes here. The Pickle Rick episode was his way of verbalizing his battle with alcoholism. And he did not need to put a character who, had a bunch of similarities to himself in that episode so that the point would come across. And in fact, it was smart of him not to do that because the only reason to put yourself into a show is as like hey, look at me. It's me that I'm talking about, not these characters. It's me. It's just it's stripping away all of the metaphor and subtlety that a piece of artwork could have if in the middle of it you just say, by the way, we're talking about me here, not these characters who could have life lessons that apply to a bunch of people who are watching this, consuming media. We're talking about me right now.
Yeah,
It's why I hate self-inserts so much.
And Krusty, did you have something to say before I continue to the next slide?
No, I 100% agree with Skipsy, because like it's not as much as you can tell somebody's like reaching, but like in a sense that when you have an episode like that, yeah, like the Big Rick episode, where it's out of the boundary of what you're expecting, and then it kind of it hits you like a brick wall where you go, oh no, I know what this. The person who's trying to create an arc for these characters out of nowhere just decides, hey, no, we're gonna do another story. It just doesn't, fit in well.
It's just, absolutely crazy. Like, not enough people. Let's start with this. Not enough people watch this show. It's phenomenal, right? So I feel like if I didn't talk about this, it would just kind of get lost in time, because it was just one of those like weird, like, oh, what is this? Why is this character here moments without like kind of connecting the dots. But when I was practicing the presentation with my college friends last night, just to make sure like the wording of my script sounded good, my one friend brought up a good point that in another theorem, because I don't need the answers to these questions. I'm not about to investigate their private life. I'm only merely looking at it as a fan of the show and how it impacts their art. Like, so my friend had this idea, or his own headcanon, that it was the creators who, like the other creatives, not just like the creator of the series, right, who owns the IP, but like the team, animators, writers, all of that, like knew that their infidelity was happening, and as like a gotcha or something, somehow like wrote him, like Anders, into the show as the creator self-insert, almost as like a middle finger fuck you, like for cheating on your wife and kids and then leaving them, kind of thing, like while the show's in production. Obviously that is a stretch and a lot of assumptions, but I think that's could be plausible in some sense. We'll never know, right? Like the intrigue here is, it's the mystery of, we will never truly know the answers to it, right? But it's just so interesting that, for me, as somebody who's really loved this series, and I want to extrapolate tons of different themes and my own inspiration from it, like I almost feel like the final season's tainted because of this insert. It's so strange. But anyways, I'll continue my presentation. I'll kind of open up final discussion at the end, because I'm almost done. But whether it was intentional or not by the creator, right, or the creatives at Mind, it is no doubt established a strong connection between his home life in reality and the fictional home life of his beloved characters. The whole discussion here would go on to explain why the ending to his own show depicts a father character admiring their daughter and ex-wife from afar. Like, literally the last 3 minutes of the show is that, right? It's subtle, but it's there. It's like, that's one of the big like discussion pieces of the show to end on, right? I truly believe, in some sense, because there's a lot of people that greenlight these things. There's a lot of executives and people that check this kind of stuff, time and time again, that it was planned all ahead of time by somebody at least, right? Because nobody accidentally puts this into a show knowing all the information that's made, that's come into the public, right? Or public light, right? So I believe it was planned all along, to which I'd like to say I noticed. And in fact, many other people who watched the show in the fandom noticed. This whole message and character wasn't really all that subtle at all, right? So, but on the slim chance that the show wasn't intentionally coded with deadbeat father leaving kids in mind, I'd still like to say today, for this presentation and eventually what will be a video, how weirdly self-prophesizing it was, if it really wasn't like planned at all, that the creator would want to emulate, like, in my opinion, the worst character that they wrote into their own series is just absolutely baffling, right? So the lesson learned here is, don't cheat on your significant other and abandon your children. That's not really cool under really most or many, or if any circumstance, But for the love of God, do not write your fucking infidelity and the abandonment of your wife and kids into one of my animated comfort shows. It's just really weird. And I will forever think about this when I see this goddamn character on screen. So, after all that being said, I would still highly recommend the series for those that are interested, as the show itself is a culmination of hundreds of artists and creatives coming together, and not just the work of one man who prefers his fictional children over his own. It can't be said enough how good seasons 1 and 2 and the movie are. They are absolute bangers. Just tread lightly going into the 3rd season and temper your expectations based on the brief amount of information I've given you around this character. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If you've liked that, I've got plenty of other animation rants up there. We've quite literally confirmed the need for an Attack on Titan discussion, so that'll be coming up in the future. But yeah, really strange stuff. And if this video gets big or it somehow hits the algorithm and becomes like the flagship Hilda video and Luke Pearson somehow sees this video, like, love your work, man. Separate the artist from the art and all of that. But like, I don't know you. I don't know your life and your life decisions, but this fucking weird dog, like, I love your art style, love your work, but fuck me. Like, I don't know what to say. Peace out.
Thank you, Colin. Clap, applause. Capping off a lengthy day of presentations. Pretty interesting discussion about, and I think you're right. This is I ask myself this a lot when I'm playing an obscure game, is how many other people on Earth are playing this right now. Niche show plus final season of niche show. So you've already got what's the word for when you lose a bunch of soldiers? Attrition. You've already got attrition on that front. Plus in-depth analysis of a small scale show. I genuinely believe you might be the only person to have covered this.